So, this is a dog, and this dog is more famous than you or me because after he gets sold off by his owner, he actually gets saved by one of the greatest boxers in the world. So, how did this dog get so famous? Well, we'll just call him Dog. One day, when Dog is a puppy, gets adopted by this guy, Sylvester, and Dog loves Sylvester. They get along great. Now, Sylvester, he's an aspiring actor living in New York, and he's trying real hard to make it in the movie business. But unfortunately for Sylvester, there's a problem. He has a condition. He was actually injured during birth, and as a result, part of his face is paralyzed. His eye kind of droops, and he's got this speech impediment. So all that makes him really hard to cast. But despite all that, he still wants to make it big in Hollywood. So he goes on audition after audition with his droopy eye and his slurred speech, and he gets rejected a lot. He does some local theater and a couple of non-speaking roles in some small movies, but it's not enough to pay his bills. So as Dog grows up, Sylvester works odd jobs to keep both of them fed, and they eventually grow to be best friends. Dog doesn't care about Sylvester's speech impediment, he loves him. So, when Sylvester moves to Los Angeles to seek out more acting roles in Hollywood, Dog of course goes with him. There in LA, Sylvester gets a few more acting roles, but nothing that can really pull him out of debt. He's still really broke, and by this time, Dog is grown, he's at 20 pounds, and he eats like a beast. Poor Sylvester, he doesn't quite have enough money to keep feeding him. Then one day, he meets a guy hanging out in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven. That guy offers to buy Dog, and Sylvester really needs the money. He makes a tough decision and sells Dog, his best friend, for around $60, hoping that one day he can get him back. Now, poor Dog. He's lost his best friend, and he has to go live with this stranger. But we're going to pause this for a second. We'll get back to him, because now we've got to talk about this guy, Bleeder. Bleeder, he's a working man, a liquor salesman in New Jersey, but most importantly, he's a boxer. He works during the day and boxes at night. Bleeder isn't the best at boxing, but he's pretty good. And he's boxed his way up to become state heavyweight champion of New Jersey, which is pretty cool. But one day, Bleeder gets an opportunity that's going to change everything. His manager gets a call from a well-known boxing promoter named Don King. Don King is looking for a fighter willing to get in the ring and fight the current heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali. Ali has 2 huge fights coming up, and he's looking for an easy match in between, a chump he can beat up real quick. Specifically, Don King and Ali are looking for a white guy. This is because of the state of race relations in the United States at the time. A black boxer versus a white boxer would stir up a lot of emotions in people, making it quite a spectacle, and they would all make a bunch of money. Bleeder gets this opportunity to fight the world champ, and he doesn't know what to do. He sees himself as a working man, not someone who should get in the ring with the best fighter in the world, but Don King offers him $100,000, which is more money than Bleeder has ever seen in his life. Of course, he says yes. He knows he can't win. The betting odds against him are 40-1. But it's important to Bleeder that he proves to everyone he belongs in the ring with the greatest fighter in the world. Boom, Bleeder quits his job, starts training full-time, and puts everything into this for months. Fight night comes and everyone's there. 15 million people are watching live. Bleeder and Ali are ready. They get in the ring, and ding, the fight starts. Off they go. They go a few rounds, with Bleeder throwing as many punches as he can. Unfortunately, Ali is just a different class of fighter. Too fast, dancing circles around Bleeder, more rounds go by. Bleeder is trying his best, but he gets tired. Screw it, he fights even harder, but a lot of his punches whiffed by Ali, and the ones that do connect don't even faze the champ. Eventually, Ali starts really fighting and wailing on Bleeder. Much to everyone's surprise, Bleeder eats all those punches. He doesn't go down, no matter how many shots Ali throws. Then he starts to notice something. The crowd in the arena seems to be cheering not for Ali, but for him. They're cheering for him because he's the underdog, and he's actually doing much better than anyone predicted he would. Right around that moment, something crazy happens. Suddenly, Bleeder throws a couple of jabs and then a hard right. Boom! He knocks Muhammad Ali to the ground. The crowd goes insane. Supposedly, Ali only fell because Bleeder stepped on his foot. There's evidence of that being true. But it doesn't matter because no one in the crowd or watching at home sees that. They see the greatest boxer on the planet getting knocked down by a working man, a nobody. They see an underdog proving he belongs in that ring. Bleeder and Ali fight it out for 6 more rounds. Ali knocks him down in the 15th and wins by TKO. Ultimately, Bleeder loses, but that's not the most important part of the story. The most important part is how this all affected Sylvester. Back in Los Angeles, around the time Sylvester had to sell dog, he's chilling at home one night. He decides to go out to a local movie theater. At that theater, they're live broadcasting the big championship fight between Ali and Bleeder. He sits down, watches that fight, and sees not a chump who lost like everyone predicted, but an underdog working man who got in the ring and gave it his best shot. Sylvester is so inspired by this that when he sees Bleeder knock Ali down, he gets an idea for a screenplay. He immediately goes home and starts banging out this screenplay, writing it by hand. It's an underdog story about an average Joe who gets the opportunity of a lifetime to box the world champ. While the average Joe doesn't win, he does knock the champ down. Sylvester, of course, calls the movie Rocky. In about 3.5 days, he's written a draft of the whole screenplay. He's stoked about it. He shops it around town, gets some feedback, but can't get anyone to produce it. One day, he goes on an audition for a movie. He doesn't get the role, but talks to the producers afterwards saying, "Hey, I wrote this screenplay. You should read it." The producers read it, love it, and agree to make the movie. Unfortunately, since Sylvester's kind of a nobody in Hollywood, he has to waive his writer fee and accept a super low rate. He's sold his movie idea, but is still kind of broke. To make things worse, he really misses Dog. He hasn't seen him in 6 months since selling him. So, he tracks down the guy who bought Dog and says, "Hey, I'm making a movie, I got a little money, and I want to buy my dog back." The guy tries to charge him a large amount. Some sources say $15,000, others $3,000. Sylvester doesn't have that kind of money. Then the guy says, "I'll give your dog back if you put me in your movie." Sylvester agrees. Boom, he's in the movie. Finally, after all this time, Sylvester gets Dog back. They're super happy. As you know, Sylvester goes on to make the Rocky movie and puts Dog in it. He also keeps his promise and puts the guy who returned Dog in the movie. The movie goes on to be a huge success. It's nominated for 10 Oscars, spawns countless sequels, and becomes one of the most iconic franchises in Hollywood history. Dog even appears in Rocky II, officially making this dog more famous than you or me.